Hello everyone and welcome back to the first week single elimination matchups. Today we have Gospel vs Salem, and up first we have Gospel on Blight killing against Salem survivors. So a very exciting set to start things off with a very early first chase already, as to start things off very quickly, as you don't want your first chase to be this quick, but at least we have some nice resources for our Jake to play around. I believe we are looking at the 8th side of the map, so a pretty good starting position to be in, since there's very good safety around this area of the map as we play our, I believe, Gas Haven, a very good map that you don't see too much often for the Blight set, since a lot of the Blight sets have transitioned to the Suffocation Pit 1, but we are back on Gas Haven, and the home field that everyone, I'm pretty sure, remembers was Blight's bread and butter map, so it's good to see that we're back on the Gas Haven. But we have dropped chase on our Jake after we got the very nice little tag, and we have transitioned over towards the main building to our Ace, which is a bit of a scary loop to be playing on Ace, because main building against Blight is incredibly strong and a very safe place to be against this killer in particular. And already Anger is playing this incredibly well. Very good greaves on this pallet, making the most out of it. The firecracker going down, trying to disorientate our killer, but it doesn't quite work. Oh, very close on the rush hit around the corner, but not enough distance to get the first tag. And A is just playing this beautifully at the moment, and greeting this pallet beautifully and making this chase last so long, and getting the pallet stun out of it as well. Very strong loot to play, and I'm surprised that we have committed to this chase for as long as we have, since the main building is just dreadful to play as the Blight of all killers. Taking it to the front main filler. Double car pallet, another very safe pallet, but this is another gold resource that we'll be losing pretty early, but we win the 50 on the pallet, and a quick little cheeky bag of like, yes, I managed to win that 50 as we still play the main building. This is the chases that you want to start a Blight set to really put up the pressure. But it looks like we will be getting our 2-rush Blight tag onto Anger now finally, which is a very good play by, I believe this is Addict, if I'm not mistaken. I apologize to our players. If I am butchering your names, I have been known to do it sometimes when I am casting. So you may flame me in my DMs, always open if I make mistakes. Oh, but head on out of nowhere. My goodness, good play from the Ace, and a few players to say that as well. Ace is very happy with these performances at the moment, but it looks like we might lose a 50 on the bin pallet at the back of main, but we have gotten our first generated pop, and it looks like we have a second getting very, very close to popping as well, so a great start by the Salem survivors, but I'm seeing some really nice rushes from our Gospel killer. Gospel being known to be one of the more higher tier teams, been around the block for quite some time now, and we do see a very nice tag onto, I've forgotten my survivor names. I think that would be a Detective Tap from my memory, but it does look like we may have had a moment of like stacking on the hook, as we do get the down onto Detective Tap as well. And this could be a bit of problems. We have a survivor on hook and a slug, and it looks like Addict is not done yet. They are heading straight back to the hook to try and lock in that tunnel out onto Anger, but we saw a very strong starting chase from them at the start, and they still have the main building even without the pallets to play. Garage pallet is still available, and it looks like that's where we're going to be taking our next chase to, and we do manage to pick up a more as well, so we've managed to get our slug survivor back into the game, which is exactly what we want, but this is a bit of a sticky situation for Anger. It's very hard to escape the garage pallet, since killer's here and can block us off, but we've opted to break the pallet, which allows Anger to slip out through the side door and out the front side of main, so we've been able to get out of there pretty well, but we now have to win some 50s on the front main window. But Dead Hard comes through to make sure we do manage to last and get out of there. But we've committed to this main window, playing these 50s, and it's just not enough. That was a beautiful Dead Hard by Anger to buy that little bit more precious time, whilst I was seem to be trying to pop this mid-map generator, and the crouch does not come through for, I believe that was a more, so we are unable to avoid the M2 hit with Blight Rush with elevation. So do take a tag. And it does look like we will be going to secure our second stage onto Anger. This will be 2 stages on the board for this trial, but this is what you'd expect to see from a Blight set. You want someone removed from the game as soon as possible, force that 3v1 early, and then play out the rest of the trial. And with this hook at the front of main, it does mean that this mid-hill gen that our survivors have been working will be eating a lovely little pop and eruption being applied to it as well for later on. And that seems to be one of our generators that we were putting up the pressure on. So we are losing some momentum on that mid-hill gen. Oh, but we get caught up on the tree. So we don't manage to get our tag onto our Jake. That's unfortunate. That would have been a great little curve around. And with the unhook onto Anger and FTP coming through from our Kate, they are the optimal target, it seems, for Addict at the moment. Really wants to remove Anger from the trial and force that 3v1. So with FTP, we at least have that extra health stage to play for, but it is unfortunately gone for Anger. But they do have a lot of the bot side map, including a very strong car pile filler pallet to play, which can transition over towards the shack side of the map, since our survivors are looking at the more top side of the map now to be breaking out generators. So Angus going to have a field day along with all of our bot side resources and be able to play this really nice filler pallet. Oh, and we've managed to totally rush hit on the car pallet so we can use the break here to make a lot of distance towards our bottom corner 5 of the map. This is what you like to see. This is the chase that you like, but unfortunately we don't win the pallet 15 and get hit through, so Anger will be leaving the trial, but we have managed to pop 3 generators for this as well, which is what you like to see, and very well played by Anger throughout the trial with the main building and that car pallet. We still have resources like shack and the one corner up for play as well, since I'm pretty sure from memory the one corner does have a very nice tile spawn that sits there, as well as another car pile setup as well. My memories of this map are starting to fault me a little bit. I'm starting to forget that you have some pretty insane tiles that can generate on this map, but unfortunately, a more is spotted out on the shack side with the shack generator with a good amount of progress, so it looks like the shack, and I believe we're looking at the 10 side were our gens that we were splitting, but we are committing to our chase onto a more at the moment around the 8 side of the map again. Oh, and what a beautiful curved Blight rush around to get it down onto a more and apply eruption down on those generators that we kicked. I believe it was the shack gen only, because I think that mid-hill gen... No, it's still up. So that mid-hill gen did get hit with eruption as well. And we've got a pretty nice split going on. Looks like I was mistaken. We have the one side / garage main generator 10 and that shack gen for our survivors to play for. And this garage gen has a lot of progress, but pop and eruption will be applied. So that will be taking a big chunk of regression and start slowly losing progress as Amor looks to try and stealth, because it looks like we are off to the races and we're after them again, but we're getting caught up on the rocks, so we have consumed all of our Blight rushes. This is a bit of a problem for Addict, since we're Blight without rushes is literally just a 4.4 minutes per killer with the changes. So if I'm not mistaken with the 4.4, I've lost track with the killer's current state, but ooh, we're so close to our M1 onto our Jake. But they are able to transition over towards a not so good Edgemite filler, so we'll be eating the M1 tag, but Addict knows that they cannot commit to this chase for too long. They know that they have shack that has progress and would have been getting worked on, but the survivor did have the shack pallet dropped, so I believe that would have been potentially Kate with the lacking of blood, and our garage gen has popped as well. So we do know that the hill gen had a little bit of progress. They've been working on this shack gen, but we have to try and play shack at the moment, and that could mean that we could be seeing a potential double up on the hill gen if this chase does last. But we are running out of resources. We do have a very nice 6-side filler pallet, and it was the K that was pressuring our shack generator. So we have an entire health state plus this beautiful filler pallet, which K plays beautifully and gets a nice stun to get rotating over towards our 5 corner of the map. We don't have a pallet here anymore, though, so this is where problems start coming through. We are going to have to, unfortunately, give up the tag and take it straight back towards shack side. So it looks like I would presume our survivors will be looking at doubling up that hillside gen. No, it was not doubled. It looks like we had one survivor trying to work on it, and I think, yeah, it was our Jake, but they unfortunately will be going down, and we hear the screams of our Kate from the shack gen, so I believe that's eruption proccing onto them from shack. So maybe our survivors have opted to just leave that mid-hill gen and maybe pressure our 10 side and shack gens as they're split instead. But now we've got a problem. We've got a hook pretty central on our loose 3 gen, which normally you would say this isn't really a 3 gen, but this is the Blight, a very high mobility killer that can traverse the map and make this very more spread 3 gen into a much more controllable 3 gen, especially with the hook right in the middle of it as well. So Attic is still in a comfortable position at the moment. We do see some blood at the moment as well, so we have unfortunately found one of our injured survivors as well, and it looks like it's a more trying to stealth it out, but obviously Attic knows that they're there, and we are unfortunately losing the 50 on the window and lost track of where they were with the check slot, so we'll be getting slugged. And this is where problems happen, because we do have to get the unhook onto the Jake, and that means that our Attic knows exactly where our 2 remaining survivors are. Beautiful play by Jake to avoid losing Kate to the down as well, and it looks like Attic is straight on Kate's heels, dropping our car pile filler pallet as well. I think that might have actually been the second one that we have from the second generated car pallet spawn, which was a very nice one, but it doesn't look like Kate can make the window vault, so we'll be going down as well. And this is where pressure starts ramping up for our survivors. We have all 3 injured, and the slugging is coming through. We know both of our survivors were around this A side of the map. We do, I believe, catch our Jake off again and get the down onto Jake as well. And this puts Amor as the lone survivor to try and bring things back for our Salem survivors. They have managed to cross down, and also they're going to try and get that quick pickup onto Kate as well to get 2 survivors back into play. But all survivors being injured This is where it still is a problematic situation since we don't have really that much time to reset and our generators are slowly regressing. So I think our survivors are going to opt to try and slow things down a little bit, but Addict is giving no breathing space for our survivors, immediately back onto our Kate on the edge map of our 7 side, and they will be forcing the locker to try and allow a more to get the pick onto our Jake and then get hopefully some health stages back onto the board since we can't stay injured at this stage. If we stay injured, this game is going to be wraps. That will be our 4th and final fresh hook of the board as well, so we have got our 6-4 locked in currently. And problems if we do get found out. It's all going to be if we can stealth, but we aren't able to stealth. Once again, Addict just giving no breathing space for our Salem survivors. Jake's going to have to cook up a miracle juice of chase right now with pretty much no resources apart from just the main building itself. And with the garage door open, we don't have that option as well. So we're just going to be forcing Locker to try and allow the unhook onto Kate to come through and hopefully get some resets happening. But as we've seen, Addict has been giving no breathing space to our survivors. So it's now the time if we can get the resets happening. We see Kate does get their health back, so this is a good start for the Salem survivors. And what we need, we can't be injured in this situation, but we do see some scratch marks, so we may actually end up finding our Kate, which would be devastating. No, we've found this blood from a Moor, I believe, so this could be almost wraps here. No, we've managed to go back and catch Kate off on the unhook and get the tag as well. We've lost that health stat that we managed to get back, but a beautiful pallet drop does mean that Kate does not go down, but we're right next to the hook. This is problems, team. We need to try and make a jiggy away, and I'm sure our viewers are noticing that Kate, for some reason, only has 3 perks. If you're new to the SewnangelSeason or have only just been able to catch it, we have a budget system. Our survivors are allocated, from memory, I believe it's $50 per match to buy their perks for the killer and survivor side. So you will notice that there might be some interesting perk choices or some perks that you would not normally expect to see on the sets, but that is because there is that budget system in play to add that bit of spiciness to this season, which I've come to really enjoy and thought is an amazing idea. W staff team in the background for coming up with an amazing idea. But once again, it's all up to a more. They need to somehow stealth Addict, get the unhook, which does. We managed to get the pick, but this means that we know where both survivors are. And it looks like Jake will not be getting off that hook. So we are down to the 2v1 with 1 gen remaining. And at this stage, most survivors would know you're not getting another gem pop in this situation. A beautiful crouch from Kate does avoid the down, but what does she have left to play? We've only got the 1 window on this tile. We've opted to try and greed, but Addict doing a nice little double back means we have a Z-wall, the mighty Z-wall to try and play. But there's only so much time you can buy on this loop before eventually going down. So a more once again left to be the final survivor left, trying to out stealth Addict, but Addict's macro and just general knowledge of where the survivors are has been amazing. We've had, I believe, a pebble used to try and disorientate Addict to try and make them think that there was someone else, but used a very funny perk that I have not seen too often in the comp scene. It looks like it actually may have somewhat caught Addict off guard a little bit. The diversion has kind of done its job, and that little rock has impacted the killer to not know exactly where Amor is. The pebble once again being used, trying to disorientate where Amor may be as they sprint burst, I believe, in to get the pickup onto Kate. But obviously, with that pickup coming through, Addict knows where they left their slug, so they are rushing straight back over and find Amor with nothing left over. All the resources have been burnt on this map. We have the mighty Z-wall into another window long wall, which, if the pallet was there, would be quite a strong setup, honestly, even though you probably would inevitably give a tag up. But it's just nothing when you only have 2 windows against a killer like Blight, and a killer like Addict is a very strong killer as well. But we are making work out of this Z-wall, but unfortunately we are vaulting into Addict's loving arms. Maybe our survivors might be just conceding that we are not getting another gen done at this stage. Our gens have basically regressed to almost nothing. So maybe we should probably get ready to move on to the next trial. But we could still see the hatch come into play, but we do need to get Amor off this hook and try and find a hook a bit further away to force that situation of either do I pick and hook over on the top side of the map and potentially risk hatch being in play, or do they unfortunately not escape the bottom side? Could even see maybe a trauma tech come through to try and allow that sort of hatch setup to be a bit more stronger. But with this mid-hill, we have a lot of line of sight around the map. A bit of a devastating thing with this map is that mid-map hill, but Kate has managed to slip their way through to get the unhook onto Amor, so our survivors are back into the game, but Kate unfortunately gets hit around the rock. Another beautiful curve from Addict, and we do see the blood from Amor trailing off. I think that's another pebble once again being used. We are getting some pebble value at the moment with this game. disorientating Addict a little bit and not allowing them to know where a Moor is. And it looks like we are opting to stealth around the edge map side, trying to avoid Addict's gazing eyes as he checks some lockers, unsure where a Moor is. I have to say, this is the first time I've seen this much value out of the lovely little rock perk that you don't typically see in this sort of setting, but as I mentioned, we might see some interesting perks in this matchup since with the budgeting thing or budgeting system, you're not going to have access to the usual perks. Some moonwalks from a more to show what they can do and show off their moves does finish the map, and a beautifully done 4k1 for Addict is secured. Very well played by the killer, but our survivors did very good in that 3v1, considering that usually when you have the 2v1 or 3v1, it's wraps at that point. So they played that endgame very well, but they just weren't quite able to keep their chasers long enough and avoid dying near that sort of left side of the map's 3-gen. And we are back, everyone. Thank you for sticking with us throughout intermissions. We love and appreciate you all for staying with us and being here to cheer on the teams. But if you are missing it, we are on the Blight set for Gospel versus Salem, and Gospel's killer Addict securing a very nicely done 4k1 for the first Blight set, but we do now switch over to Salem's killer and having to play for a 4k2 to take the set, and Gospel survivors just need to pop 5 generators to secure the first set of the trial. And for those that may have missed my prior mention of it earlier on in the first set, we have a budget system for Season 1 of SewnangelSeason League, where our survivors, well, our teams are allocated $50 to basically purchase all of their perks for their matchups. So you may notice throughout the trial, as we saw on Renato, only having 3 perks, and maybe some interesting perks combinations could be applied in the trial today. As we see, Ace and Claudette also restricted down to 3 perks. Looks like our team may be trying to save some of their budget for one of the upcoming sets, which, if I'm not mistaken, is another banger classic that we all love to see, with the Oni coming up after our Blight game. So back to the action, obviously. Currently at hand, we have our Claudette Addict, our previous Blight killer from the first set, in chase now along the bottom side of the map, and we haven't... Oh, I was about to say, we almost haven't given first tag, but Renato unfortunately caught off along the bottom mid side of the map, so we'll be giving away that first tag, dropping our filler pallet towards the bot 5 side, I'd like to say, as we transition to a much safer pallet with the carved filler pallet, getting a very nice stun for smash hit as well. And this is a survivor that I'm sure the Gospel team would want in chase right now, being the decisive player, Blight being S tier allowed. Some pretty nasty perks for our survivor side, like decisive, but unfortunately they will be going down. But this is the most optimal survivor for your first look if you are the survivor side of Gospel. With your DS player being first look, that means they have a very good leash on life after they are unhooked. And we are seeing a very much beloved perk, I believe, for the Blight with Dying Light and our usual Pop, Eruption, and Corrupt combo. Addict unfortunately gets caught off along the shack side though and gives up a free tag, which is a bit of a devastating blow, but looks like we're not going to be committing too hard. Looks like Amor wants to commit to their talent, as we saw Addict do in their previous game, but unknowingly, unless we have picked up the obsession side of things, they would know that this is our decisive strike player. But we do, once again, as we saw beforehand, have the very strong main building loop. A beautiful little crouch does mean we dodge the Blight Rush, but we have to watch out for that timer so that we can at least still use our DS when needed. But with this loop being as strong as it is, we may not even see the use unless we force the down so that we end up basically giving Amor no choice but to eat the DS, doing some bump logic, but unfortunately missing the connecting hit and breaking the mid, well, inside main God pallet, instead dropping our back main rubbish pallet as well into another bin rubbish pallet setup, which is, as much as I say it's a rubbish bin pallet, this is one of your stronger loops to be able to play on any map on the records, also Auto Haven maps that spawn this tile. So one unfortunately strong pallet gone, main building losing its internal pallet as well, except for the garage pallet, which is not what you like to see. But we see a lot of progress on this top or mid top hill gen, which is what you want. Get rid of that mid gen and break up the map. Our first generator of the trial now popping along the bottom mid side of the map as well, and it looks like we are back onto our Renato, but we do see aces here for the protection hit as well to allow Renato to make it all the way down towards our shack, but I don't think we have our shack pallet anymore. And shack pallet popping in our killer space, and we do have the pallet as well. My mistake. Very well played by Addict to also get the firecracker and get out of there scot-free, but we do have only the bin pallet to play as our third gen pops of the trial. There is so much going on right now. My goodness. Chat, let me, well, as I say, gamers, let me breathe. There's just too much going on right now as Addict is our current chase over around our buses, but against the Blight, this isn't the most safest loop, and we are down to playing 50s, but it looks like Addict has actually managed to slip onto the inside of the buses, which is a much safer and easier spot to play this loop at. But we are back onto the 50 side and will not be winning this 50 this time round. Renato also running in just to do a bit of a drive-by. Hey, teammate, how are we going? How's the chase been? Are we loving life right now? And Cenobite from Amor to be like, Renato, go away. Let me just have my hook, please, as our 4th gen of the trial pops for 2 hook stages. This is where Amor will be starting to feel the pressure because we are at Tycon. We have officially lost our win condition. So we need to get into gear, get all 4 survivors dead at this stage. Otherwise, Gospel will be taking the first set, but this is their set pick, so this is what you would expect from a team that picks the set. This is more or less likely they're set to win, as they picked it and would be definitely going to take their own sets and then try to attempt to steal their opposing team's set pick. But Renato sending it up towards our 8-side edge map, only having, I think this is actually a seawall, or I'm sorry, a makeshift seawall almost, if not just a little edge map terrain filler part, but we get our nice tag onto our Renato, and it looks like we'll be trying to secure our 2nd stage onto Amor. But yeah, this is definitely pretty interesting to see, and I've just had some confirmation from the staff that Renato might be the mighty Sen, actually, which will be very cool to see. I don't get to see many games with Sen on the action, but we now have Vayne in chase around our little car pallet, which is once again very safe resource to have, but we are down to 50s at the moment, and unfortunately for Vayne, they don't manage to win the 50 on the car pallet, and we'll be getting slugged as Addict goes to 2nd and more, right back over towards the left side of the map to try and check for gens, and also maybe check to see if someone is rotating for that unhook. But at this stage, if our survivors are feeling confident enough, this could lead to the downfall for Salem for this set, as they only need to pop 1 last gen, and that will be the set 1. We do have Renato back in chase now, but the unhook does come through onto Addict, and Amor wants them gone to try and allow that 3v1 to happen. But looking at our gens, we have an insane split setup, which is what you want if you are the survivor side. Very hard to guard, and a bit worse than what we saw in our previous game, since yes, the split was a bit spread, but with Blight's rushes can traverse the map quite efficiently. So it was definitely a holdable gen split compared to the one that unfortunately Amor has to try and play now. Addict doing very well to use the generator inside Shack to avoid the Blight rushes, but only has this filler bin pallet to play into the Shack window, which, thinking about now, actually a very strong setup under the circumstances. So no life, unfortunately, so we no longer have our exhaustion, but we do have Fixated, which is a very strong, underrated perk in chase. Most people think, oh, it's just a stealth perk, but Fixated actually a very strong chase perk. And Addict, a beautiful greed on the pallet as Vayne is getting ever so close to popping the gen. I think this might be Gospel set to win, as the 5th gen of the trial does pop. We weren't able to get Addict out of the game quick enough, and our survivors' gen pressure with their chases was just crazy strong. We do have some nice gate spawns, both being on the top side, but we have 4 survivors in the trial at the moment. Renato and Jake, both now healthy cash, and I believe it's Sen if we are not mistaken. And we are getting a double reset onto Addict as well. So we're about to have 3 survivors with full health stages, and I would believe Vayne will be not far behind as well. They are dying light, and they were 99 on their heal as well. So all 4 survivors are now healthy once again. Doing some jiggy passing from Vayne to make it so we don't end up getting the rush tag and having to go into fatigue. But this is where I think Amor may not have any much more to play, since we have 4 healthy survivors to attack the 2 gates. So at best, we could be looking at the 6 stage 3 fresh, as I think Sen, I believe, is coming for a hit tag and does have main to play, but this is a survivor you would rather compare to Vayne or Cash being in chase or potentially down, since they have already a hook stage while the other 2 survivors are fresh. So we do hear the exit gates have now been opened, so we are in the final stages of the trial. It's now just up to if Sen can make it out. Vayne coming in for a very good hit take, but we are sort of stuck at this front main filler pallet, even though it's a very strong one. But we do have 2 healthy survivors to try and play to allow the ass to come through, and it would not surprise me if Addict comes in to try and take a death for Sen to be able to try and escape the trial being death. But unfortunately, we don't make it through. We do see Vayne doing some cheeky heals in the face of Amor, and we do have pretty much all of our survivors here at the moment. Addict lurking nearby for a flashlight save with 2 other survivors nearby. The entire squad is here to try and help Sen get out of the trial, but Looks like we'll be taking our hook, and not quite an angle for Addict, nor for Cash to get their Firecracker, so Sen will be hooked as their second hook, putting it up to 4 stages of the trial. At this stage, obviously, our survivors could leave at any point, but I would assume that we're going to play for the best result. Addict does take a tag, and it looks like Cash is coming through for the unhook. It does come through as the M1 comes through, and we do have some survivors to be able to take the hell stages, but FTP from Vayne onto Sen may have actually just cost them another fresh hook, since we could have probably just used Sen's endurance to make it send it towards the gates. And if we're not careful here, we might get another slug, but I'm getting a little bit caught up on the shopping shelves of the main building, so this is problems. We now have 2 injured survivors. Nu is now slugged, and Addict is injured. Sen showing some moonwalks around the car pallet and just sort of staring passionately into Amor's eyes as the third fresh hook of the trial does come through. Obviously, the win con has been hit, but our survivors do look like they want to try and push for better results and try and get everyone out the door. Sen lurking very close by with a very nice pallet. Unfortunately, looks like Vayne gets a bit of a slap on the hook, but a good little greed by Renato does mean we don't take the tag as we see the reset come through onto Cash, so our survivors look to be setting up for an attempted save onto Vayne to try and still secure that 4 out. We have time as well to set up since this is only our first hook. A beautiful dodge of the M1 does allow the underhook to come through, and an unfortunate miss on the M1 again does give the unhook, and we have the entire squad here to help protect the president. Don't worry, Vayne, we've got you. We will not let you go down, as Amor desperately tries to cut off Vayne from the back main exit gate, but we have so many living pallets here that it looks like they will be escaping the trial, and some no-boos from Amor as the squad lines up to say, nope, we are not allowing you to have Vayne. We are getting out of here. Sen doing some ring around the roses around Amor on the exit gate, and some cheeky banter from our survivors onto Amor as well, but we've got to remember, this isn't the last set. We do have the only set to follow up, but a very strong performance by the Gospel survivors. And welcome back, everyone. We are on to the second set of Gospel versus Salem, and we saw a beautifully done game from Gospel to take their set pick as we move into Salem set pick of the Oni on Cold Tower 1. A very explosive set if you do manage to get that first tag. So that will be the deciding factor of this trial. How long can we deny the mighty Oni of that power and not allow the demonic demon form to emerge? So it's all going to come down to, it looks like, Addict to start things off, because it looks like Addict is our chase target to start things off. And we are taking chase down towards our ace on the map, but it looks like we may have to be giving the first tag very quickly into the trial before any of our survivors, I believe, have had a chance to really rotate towards our generators. We do see, I believe that's I think that's Gibbsy over on the side from Cash lurking around, but you definitely don't want to be taking hits against a killer like the Oni, because that's just playing into their power. So Addict is just going to have to try and play their life around some TNLs along the 10 side of the map. Looks like Anger's got some nice cheeky mind games to come through, and it might have paid off, but we don't manage to get the hit on the 10 tile, so we are managing to light over towards our main building, which is a very safe place to be. But that power gauge is slowly building up, since we did get a very nice quick tag early on, so we will have access to that full powered Oni form very soon. If we do extend this chest a bit longer as well, that's a lot of blood starting to pull up on the map for Anger as well. We are starting to rotate towards our top mid. I feel a pallet, very strong resource to be playing, and then transitioning back over towards the 10-sided main, the front door being closed as well, making the main building very, very strong. I believe we did have Bamboozle though, so yes, with Bamboozle we do not have access to the main building anymore, but it looks like we'll just take our blood and look for another survivor to start popping our power and start running around the map in our all-powerful demon form. Our first gen did pop of the trial for that chase, so very well played by Addict to extend it for that long and still not go down. Looks like Anger's a little bit unsure if we have a potential survivor hiding in the locker, and just wants to find one of our healthy survivors to pop power and then start really getting the pressure up. But that is our second gen popping of the trial. Looks like Gospel is still keeping up with that gen pressure, and we see they are pressuring our 9-side generator as well. I believe this is Cash, if I'm not mistaken. If not, it would be Gibbsy. So we're going to have to see how the chase goes now that the power has been popped. But it looks like we've done a bit of a crazy jiggy here. We've actually lost track of our survivor, and they've managed to Gibbsy's managed to rotate down towards the A side. We have managed to catch eyes on them again, but this is a bit of a 50-50s moment, and it looks like Gibbsy will not be winning the 50 as we do go down on our 8th side of the map. But that was a relatively still decent amount of time that we've used up power, so we will be back into the M1 form, and I don't know if we actually will have enough blood to re-establish our power again. So it's good that we got our first hook of the trial, but I don't know if we'll have enough to get back into power so we can really make the unhook ever so more pressuring. But in saying that, I should have realized, like, we were in Chasers injured for quite some time, so we actually may have enough blood to either be 99 or have that power back online, which is what we need at this stage. We need our power to be back up, and it looks like we have caught Cash up along the top side of main, but they are our balance landing player, so do have plenty of safety. And yes, I was mega mistaken. We have a lot of blood on the main side. Looks like that chase onto Addict was more than enough to give our second power of the trial active, so we have to try and make main building last as long as possible at the moment, and if we get a nice quick down for Anger, this could be problems for the Gospel Survivors, but we are playing main quite safely at the moment, going back upstairs to try and do a drop down, I believe, into the window vault again, but we don't have much distance since we don't have balance anymore, so Cash will be going down, but it's not all for nothing for our Gospel Survivors as the third generator of the trial does pop. And we should have burned through a decent amount of power, but as you see from our build, we do have Pain Res on hand with a very nice top mid Pain Res hook in the front of main. So if our gens did have any pressure, we do see the token is consumed, so we did hit a generator with it. And it doesn't look like it's main building, so our survivors do have another generator on the map that does have some good progress at just 8 Pain Res, so that would be concerning if I was in Anger's shoes of, Pain Res didn't hit the top main generator, so what other gen could they be currently working? It looks like we will be going around to try and get all of our blood to try and unlock that demon form again, as the unhook did happen while we were up on main, so they managed to get out of jail for free, basically, and we are immediately getting a reset onto Cash as well. So all of our survivors, once again, are healthy, but we do have enough blood still left over on the map to get our third power of the trial. Very good stuff for Anger. You want to be in power as much as possible, and with an early tag like we saw onto Addict, it does put that pressure onto their side, since this is where Oni does bring out their power and can become a menace if we get a little bit sluggy with it. So it's going to be up to if our survivors can out-stealth this power, because if we do manage to stealth out this power, this is where the tables turn for Anger. We don't have enough blood on the map to get another power, I believe, since we've mostly consumed all of it to get this third power active. And we saw the Gospel Survivors are very, very happy to just hard stealth Anger and just try and make it so that they lose their power and go back to that starting ground that we see at the start of the trial with no power and being just an M1 killer. So if we do manage to stealth it out, which it does look like we have, this is where the problems begin for our killer. So we're going to need to get a very quick tag here and try and get that power back online as soon as we possibly can. We do spot 2 survivors around the bottom mid side and some scratch marks leading back up towards our top 1 side of the map. And it's Addict stealthing around the 2 tile, getting unfortunately caught off and giving the tag away. So we do have blood being generated once again on the map, and it looks like Anger will be sticking onto Addict at the moment to try and get some map-wide blood back on the board. And another fresh club of the trial, since we are only at 2 stages, which is a bit of a scary situation. Almost actually just instantly winning the 50, knowing they're not going to make that hit on the pallet, so try and curve back around to the backside. But we need to break this pallet. This pallet is incredibly strong to have. Life, though, unfortunately being burnt for Addict, since we had to fast vault the pallet, so we didn't give away the down. But we do have Shack to connect to, so it looks like Anger was also a bit unsure about the Jiggy as well, being able to make a lot of distance at the moment. And the 4th gen of the trial now popping. We do have a lot of blood, so we are able to get power back online. And if our survivors opt to stealth once again, it could be the exact same situation once again of just not enough blood for power and being brought back to that M1 state. Breaking our one side door of main to open it up even more. We have both doors open now, so main is not that safe anymore unless you are the balance landing player, which I believe it was Gibbsy up along this top side again. No, it would have been Cash. Cash, I believe, was our balance player. Yes, they are the person that was pressuring our topside gen. Goober, ghosty moment. But once again, our Gospel Survivors showing that they are more than content with this hard stealthing out the power of Oni. Oh, it looks like we were a bit caught up on the red card, wanting to break the pallet for the first dash, but we are breaking that resource, so that means that we have pretty much no longer any safety around the main side, and we lose power once again. Gospel Survivors are playing very, very well with this stealthing, making sure that we just don't have any power to be worried about, and reverting Anger just back out to that M1 killer. If we do get the reset onto Addict, this could be basically wraps at this stage, since we are unsure where our survivors are. We don't have a lot of blood left on the map, and we still need to try and get a tag. I realize now that Addict has unfortunately not gotten reset, so up until now, there was actually a good amount of blood being generated on the map, and it looks like I may have heard our survivor. Yes, Cash on the top main side, but as I mentioned before, they do have balanced landing, so they are able to safely transition down towards our 3 side of the map, and we have resources down this way to play as well, so unless we can get a nice quick tag onto Cash, which we do get, very well played. This is where we need to be careful, because we can't overly commit to a chase for too long, while also trying to build up our power. We do need to protect our generators, since we are down to that last gen to play for, and if we're not careful, this could be lights out here for our killer, and this is definitely not a result you want to be putting up for the second set when you are 1 set down. Looks like Cash, though, unfortunately does not win the 50 or the vault on the window, so we'll be going down, and there is a lot of blood now, probably transversing on the map from Addict before the reset comes through. Yes, a lot of blood towards this bottom side of the map, and we will be cashing in a second pain res hook of the trial, putting our third stage on the board. But apparently it was not quick enough, as the generator over at 11 does pop, and Gibbsy immediately on that 11 side gate, Added coming in for a very quick unhook onto Cash, and it looks like that gate is almost already prepped to open. We do have 2 survivors caught up on the side though, and don't get the hit onto Gibbsy. New also lurking around as well with the firecracker to try and blind after the pallet animation break does come through, but to no avail. But New is now our remaining survivor in chase. While Cash does get reset, we could potentially see them coming in to try and take it down, but it might not even be needed. Gibbsy immediately back on that 11 side gate. A quick little point from New as the gate does open. Now we're just buying some time for our other remaining survivors to escape. There's 2 survivors out the door, one of them being a fresh hook, and we can see our other 2 survivors also down the bot side opening the gate, and Anger knows that they're not going to be able to make it in time, so we've at least secured the 3 stages on the board, but this is definitely not a result I believe Salem would be looking for their second set, and potentially the last one as well. Our remaining 2 survivors giving a couple of bags at the exit gate to show, yes, we are out of here, but damn. And we are back. If you missed the action from the previous game, unfortunately for Salem, Anger was only able to secure 3 stages too fresh for their game. So the Salem survivors are definitely going to be in a very rough situation, with 2 survivors just looking down at our killer, some firecracker being dropped. It looks like our survivors may know that this is basically an impossible task, as Anger, our previous Oni player, will be looking like our first chase around a very strong I-fill on the top side, with some spectators from our Jake over on the main side as well. So pressure's on, Anger. You've got some spectators from both us and your fellow survivors for your first chase, so we're going to have to see how it looks like. In a way, our 1v1 looks to be playing off. Anger doing a fantastic job around this high field, reading it very nicely and playing it very nice, not dropping the pallet early, but we have to be careful of Bloodlust. We can't play too much around the greed, otherwise Bloodlust may end up coming to haunt us. What looks like it may be coming through soon. We do have to get our vault, which we do get, and Anger doesn't have any supporting perks for this little 1v1 event chase that we're having, being the head-on player, but we are playing this out very nice, but I believe we would be in Bloodlust 2 at the moment, so the speed up is definitely coming through, but we missed the M1, some bags from Anger to show, yes, I make that vault. Very cheeky work, but we'd love to see the banter. But looks like we are leaving chase. We're trying to see who we had, and we were, oh, my mistake, we were in Bloodlust 3 for that I-fill, so that's an incredible chase from Anger to not give up the tag, with Bloodlust 3 also in play as we transition over to a more on the main building side, instantly throwing the to one side map palette, but we are back in Bloodlust 3, so this is the tag coming through onto a more. We do have a nice amount of progress on the generator that our Renato, as mentioned before, potentially is Sen, was working, and looks like Anger is now flipped the spectrum. Is like, you know what, you spectated my chase, I'm going to spectate yours, as we send it down towards our bot side to what looks to be, unfortunately for our survivors, the generator that was being worked. Oh, very strong greed from Anger to not get the tag on our bot mid filler palette, but this is a dangerous part to play with a very short wall. And transitioning over towards an I-filler, baiting the hit at the window, a beautiful fake, but the M1 not coming through again. My goodness, Anger, you've been doing some work on your 1v1s to avoid these tags, and another missed M1 on the Ormond tile as well. Anger able to send it up towards our 2 side, but we only have an unsafe pallet on the 2 to play and does give up the tag, so our second injured survivor of the trial, and that does also unlock power as the first generator of the trial does pop. Guys, I'm wondering if maybe we shouldn't have been spectating the chases and maybe been on gens, because it just makes the win condition even more hard. We see a survivor crouching down towards basement, unfortunately going down, and this could be problems since we could just theoretically camp this a second and then get a hook on another survivor and camp them to second. That would be wraps at that stage, so a very quick down comes through and a basement hook to follow up as well. We did use up a bit of power though, which is what you want, but we do have 2 injured survivors that aren't getting reset. So that's a lot of blood being generated on the map for Gibbsy. I would presume at this stage, our survivors know that it's going to be very, very difficult to try and get a win condition like 3 stages. So maybe just going in for a bit of fun, having a bit of a good time with it. And unfortunately for more, the point tech, well, the come here tech does not work for them, and they will be getting slugged as Gibbsy hunts for more. Is not done yet and wants to make the most out of this power, so it does start scanning around the 9 side to see if they can catch off another survivor. And we do know Anger is up on the top main side, isn't our balanced landing player, so doesn't have that to play for, so has to try and play main. Does have a nice connecting window with the drop down, but an instant bamboozle from Gibbsy does deny that completely, and we no longer have this red car pallet, and we'll be getting downed along the 11 side pallet. We'll be taking our pick here as power should be running out regardless very soon, and we have managed to get, I believe it was a more out of the basement at least, but that is 2 stages on the board now. And if we straight up just camped Anger out of the trial, that would be the set win at this stage. So our Salem survivors are definitely falling behind, but what they to do. A 3-stage 2 fresh game is a very unfortunate game to be playing for. We do see 2 survivors on the top mid side and a lot of blood allowing us to regain our power. And this could be where the game potentially ends right here. We have to win some 50s, but unfortunately, Amor does not win the 50s. Jake is also lurking around as well, watching from the sidelines. A big flick around from Gibbsy, but it does not connect. Looks like they're very confident to try and play this eye filler and try and get some nice little flick arounds with the power. Do we get this one to connect? No, we greed the pallet. Very well played to avoid the down, but it looks like a slow vault may cost them the down. And it looks like Anger has also joined the party. They wanted to do another little 1v1 chase around the eye filler, but this time it's in power though, Anger, so we've got to be careful because the power changes everything as they also get downed as well as power does run out. And our remaining survivor, Renato, staring down the barrel of the gun as Gibbsy commences the last chase of the trial at this stage, since unless we can get some pickups happening, we are looking at a 4k4. So we're in what looks to be potentially our last chase of the trial. We do manage to get the pickup onto a more. We unfortunately don't avoid the tag, but we do manage to get at least a survivor back into the trial. But we have plenty of blood since our survivors are all injured to get back into power. So we're down to the final 2 survivors in chase against an Oni in power. We have the train or the rail track pallet, but it's not enough. And we'll be going down, but that does buy time for Anger to be picked as we play the red car pallet again. But it looks like that's not who we're after at the moment. Gibbsy is after our Renato and wins the 50 on our 2-side pallets. Will be slugging them as well, leaving once again 2 survivors to be our remaining. Anger, last person on the crack little pallet, but does go down as well. So it's all up to Jake if he can somehow do what Renato did and bring things back. But Gibbsy is hot on their heels, wins the 50 on our 2-side pallet. 2 of our survivors down on the 11 side, trying to get some pickups happening. We get 1 survivor back. More back into the trial, but our remaining 2 survivors are once again trapped on this little like construction track little filler pallet. But we are transitioning over to an almond filler, which is very nice to avoid the hit. But I think we vaulted back over, so more will be going down once again, and Jake being left to be the lone survivor to try and recover things with a lot of blood on the map. Gibbsy should have plenty to get back into power, and at this stage it is all but doom and gloom for our Salem survivors. In saying that, we have managed to get the pickup back onto Anger, so we have 2 survivors back into the trial, but this is enough blood to get power back. Anger doing a cheeky little vault on the track filler, and we are doing some goofy stuff at the moment. Gives you maybe trying to show some style points at the moment with power, and it looks like Crouch coming through to avoid the M1. It looks like Gibbsy's just doing a bit of Drift King Oni. Big flick comes through, and Anger vaults straight into it as well. 2 survivors left, both injured. An Ormond filler is their only real safety that they have access to, and unfortunately, Renato does not win the pallet vault, so we're down once again to our Jake. Plenty of power still on the table. Are able to avoid the first hit slam, but that does break the only paladate with safety for them, and with that, a 4k4 for Gospel to secure the set. It looks like our survivors do know that at this stage it's